morning, you guys, from wherever you are. In fact, give us a shout out. I see a bunch of you guys are already here. And why is my music still going? Let's get rid of that. Come on. It's just deciding to keep playing. Jared, help me out here. Okay. You guys, from wherever you are. In fact, give us a shout out. I see a bunch of you guys.
How are we going to hear an echo?
Why is my music still going? Okay. Let's get rid of that. All right, there we go. All right, so we're picking it up. You guys always get the early beginning part of this thing before we actually... We'll cut out all this stuff when we do our little bit of editing. But let's see who's here on the call. So, Paolo, where are you from? I forget. You're getting stuff in black and white, is that right? Okay. That's cool. Picking it up. You guys always get the early beginning. Now, who has got their audio going here on the stream? Is that you, Bob? Do a little bit of editing. But, Bob, I'm hearing some echo there on your end. Yeah. Can you hear me, Bob? Stuff in black and white, is that right? Hello, Bob. All right. Cool. Bob, turn off the YouTube and listen to the audio just from Skype. That's better. Can you hear me now? I can hear you guys. Say something, Bob. Hello, can you hear me?
Hi.
There you go. Can you hear me? I can hear you.
I can hear you, but we've got, for some reason, we've got YouTube playing in the background.
Yeah, you have to kill that screen. I would just click it off. I'm glad you guys are our friends that are seeing our behind the scenes fiddling around before we. So check your different screens and see which one is YouTube. Meanwhile, I'm going to say hi to you guys. Leon, where are you from? And Jose, rather. Good to see you guys. Good to see you again and to see us. And Paulo from Portugal and South Africa, but you live in Belgium. That's amazing. Okay. That's a lot of different countries. Did you find it, Bob?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, we should be good. What do you know? So thanks for joining us, you guys. This is cool. We're going to have a lot of fun here with our friends here in a minute. So we're going to do the official start. Hi, I am Marc Silber. I'm a photographer and author in Carmel, California. And, I want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Bay Photo Lab. And these guys are amazing. I've been using them for decades. They will print anything you need. Books, obviously photos for your wall. They'll frame them. They'll make cards. They'll even make coffee cups. They're awesome. They give great customer service. And they'll give you a 25% discount for your first order. Support them. Support yourself. And, that's really important to get your work off your screen and out onto the walls. So we are once again joining our friends, Bob Holmes, former National Geographic photographer, 5-time Travel Photographer of the Year award, and an amazing teacher. We're also joined by his partner, Andrea Johnson. She's a photographer, director, and she specializes in wine, agriculture, and adventure travel industries. And here they are. Welcome to Advancing Your Photography again, you guys. So good to have you back.
Marc.
Hi, Marc.
And you're back in California, safe and sound. Good to see.
At last.
Well, look, I thought we were kind of talking about what we were going to go over, and I thought, people do like to see examples of what works. I won't say good and bad because, whatever. But what works in a photograph and what doesn't. And sometimes, we're more fortunate with certain shots than others. So, Bob, would you like to dive in on some of these?
Yeah, well, first of all, I should say it was really difficult finding any of my photographs that didn't work.
I know, you had to dig so hard. They're in that tiny little bin that you keep in the bottom of your drive.
Unfortunately, I've got several file cabinets full of them.
Yeah.
I always say when we do these things that it's important to look at what you're shooting very critically, and you have to practice. If you pull the first shot up,
Yeah,
Mark,
let's bring that up.
it's
I need to
it's
switch quickly to another screen while you keep talking. That's fine.
I'll keep talking.
I'll
Yeah,
I'll bring
you
you
have to
I'll bring you back in a
talk
second.
about light. Without light, we don't have photographs, and it all really all comes down to that. Composition is important, but that's very, very subjective. Light, however, applies to all of us. We have to have appropriate light. We talk about good light and bad light. The important thing is to get appropriate light for the subject.
Yes.
For example, if it's cloudy and even a little bit wet, you may say, oh, it's really bad light. It isn't bad light. It's great light for portraits. You just change your focus. So I don't think there is anything. The only bad light is zero light.
Yeah.
As long as there's sunlight, you can use it. And I'd like to look at a few photographs that illustrate this morning.
Yeah. It
If we
looks
start
like
off with the
I think
first
we're
one,
looking at the governor's mansion in Honolulu, if I'm
it's
not mistaken.
Ailani Palace
Yeah,
in
there we go.
Honolulu. Um, this I was working on a book on Hawaii, and this is a landmark building that I had to photograph. I got there at an inappropriate time of day, and all I could get was this horrible photograph. Ugly light. There are cars in front because there are people working in the place.
Yeah.
It's a record shot, and that's all. It's a horrible photograph, but you have to be able to pre-visualize to some extent. And if you know your camera and know light, you can imagine what it's going to be like at a different time of day. So I waited until the evening and got this next shot.
Let's get that up on the screen
next on
there
the
for you.
list.
Now we have some wonderful golden hour light on it.
And it is a totally different image.
It is.
I waited until there was a good balance between ambient light and it's not changing, Mark, on my screen. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, it is on mine, so you'll just have to have
I'll have
faith.
to trust you.
You have to trust me. I'm showing this
I know better,
in good
Mark.
faith. That's a lot to ask.
It is a lot to ask.
You just have to
I've
bear
known you
with.
too long. Yeah, by waiting until early evening, you get a really nice balance between ambient light. You need sunlight in the sky.
Yeah.
And the alpenglow, when the sun's gone down, you get a reflection into the clouds if there are any, but you get this warm light hitting the building, and lights come on in the building. You're able to see those. If lights are on in the building in the daytime, the outdoor light would be so bright that you wouldn't see them. So
Right.
you need this balance, and you need to know how your camera is going to react to that balance. If you don't know that, you can never really be in control of your photographs. So this is an extreme example.
So this is a
just
bit
like
before
waiting.
the little bit before the blue hour, because you're still getting that alpenglow, right?
Yeah, it's really the blue hour.
Is it? Okay.
And this was, a 6 hour time difference.
Yeah.
We don't always have the luxury of waiting for 6 hours, but if you do, to get better photographs, you have to sacrifice. You have to sacrifice sitting down to dinner with all your friends sometimes because the light is nicest then.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to get up before dawn, sacrifice an extra couple of hours in bed. So there are a lot of sacrifices you have to make, particularly as a travel photographer. Well, as any kind of photographer.
Yeah.
But this is a very clear example. And
Should I
if
go
you
to the
look
next
at
one?
that series, Mark, I often, in the days of film, I used to, when I was teaching workshops, I'd take people to a specific place and we would go back there at different times of the day,
Right.
using the same roll of film, the same camera, the same lens, and see how the light varied. If you can go through the next three shots fairly quickly, Mark.
Sure.
They're taken in Vancouver, Canada,
Oh,
of the
yes. I know that
campus
place.
hotel. And the photographs are all, they're about 3 hours apart.
Okay.
But, but,
Oh, what a difference.
but
Wow.
looking at the three of them sequentially, you can go through them very quickly. You
Yes.
see how the different light recorded very differently on the same film. And it's no different with digital cameras. Um, the first shot was a midday shot, then a blue hour shot, I guess you call it, and then a late evening shot.
Yeah,
You can do it with digital cameras and see how your sensor reacts to different light. It's exactly the same principle.
it is.
And it pays to practice like this and just see how it varies. And as soon as you know that, you're in much more control.
You know what, Bob, it occurs to me that's probably a good exercise for people to do. Just take the same subject at different times of the day so you can see the variations in lighting and you can then see what your camera's doing with it.
Yeah, absolutely. You
Yeah.
have you have to do this. I say time and time again, you have to practice. It's like any art form.
Yes.
It, Photography is always deceptively simple because you're with iPhones now, you can just pick up your phone and take a good photograph because of the algorithms that Apple have built into the iPhone. But you're not really in control. You want to be in control to express what you're visualizing. And only
Exactly.
by practice are you able to be in control. You have to keep practicing, and not enough people are prepared to practice.
Yes, you have to get out of that sort of instant, I'm going to get an instant photograph and move on mentality because that just doesn't really hold up. That's
Yeah.
not how it works.
And
Okay.
if you can go quickly on to the next one, then I'll hand over to Andrea. I
So
think
this
it's a,
is the guy
it's a
in Peru, right? Is that where he is? With
uh, I don't know because I can't see him on my screen yet.
the
Um,
bright, he's got
yeah,
this really bright,
if
uh,
it's the shot I'm thinking of, it's a guy in Peruvian
yes,
dress taking close to Machu Picchu. It's a typical sort of thing you come across when you're traveling. Yeah, that's the shot. Um, it's taken in harsh light at midday.
very
It's
harsh.
lighting. Although had someone tell me earlier this year when I was giving a talk, they couldn't see anything wrong with that. To me,
He's
I think it's
squinting. I mean, it's a real, yeah,
dazzled
he's got shadows.
but you can't see his eyes. It's in harsh
Yeah,
shadow. It's ugly light for a
yes,
portrait, and I could see behind. If you look at the next shot, you can see behind him.
yes,
There's a hotel.
yeah,
And this guy was doing this for tourists, basically.
right.
He's an authentic Peruvian, close to Machu Picchu, an authentic dress, but he was posing for tourists. And as
Yeah.
you'll see in the next shot, you'll see
Ah,
a bunch of people shooting him. But
yeah.
I spotted behind him there was an overhanging balcony. You see
Yep.
underneath there's an open space with open shade. And all these people, as soon as they'd finished taking these photographs, they went inside for pisco sours and snacks. They were there for 10 minutes and just went inside. I asked him if he'd mind just moving under this balcony for a few minutes.
And what a difference.
It took me 5 minutes. And it's like night and day. I just moved him into that area but that you can see underneath. Very
Yes.
simple shot. And the light was perfect for a portrait. It was nice, soft light coming in. And it just transformed it into a good portrait rather than an ugly shot in harsh light.
I'm going to compare. I'm going to go back to that first one, guys. Here's what he's looking at, and then here's his final. And Bob, this underscores, I think I've written this in one of my books about the difference between being a passive photographer and an active photographer. Passive,
Yeah, I
you just,
told you that. I told you that.
you probably told me, and I
Yeah,
wrote it.
I never got acknowledgement.
Well, I'm going to acknowledge you now. You could be, it's like you could sit back and let the world just sort of apparently dish out photographs to you, or you do something passive that's being passive, or you get active and move your subject around as you see fit.
So it took 5 minutes, if that, and it was so easy to do. Nobody else thought of it. But it
And
was, to me, it was so obvious.
it's a
And
perfect photograph.
it's knowing how your camera will capture the subject and
Yeah.
how the light will work that enables you to do that. If you don't know that, you don't even think of it. But if you practice enough, I've been practicing all my life pretty well. I've been taking photographs now for years.
And the other
So,
thing, Bob, is you're keeping it simple. You're not thinking in terms of, well, if I had a team with scrims and I could reflect light on his face and I could do all this other, mumbo
yeah,
jumbo.
and a lot of photographers do that. They take
Yeah.
whole lighting kits. I'm too lazy. I just want to make it easy.
Well, there you go. Good lazy photographer. Good lazy
So
photograph.
now I
So,
need a rest, so I'll hand over to Andrea.
okay. Andrea, let me pull yours up. And we're going to start with the, there we go. This is the sequence in rain with the umbrella.
Uh-huh. All right.
What's going on here?
As mirroring Bob's moving quick with natural light and having to adapt to situations discussion, we found ourselves in that same scenario last fall in Portugal. I was doing a wine spectator assignment, and typically that time of year, it's quite beautiful, sunny. You can depend on the fall colors and the incredible landscapes, and I needed to capture a sense of place photo, something with the two winemakers. This is Wine and Soul in the Douro, and I really wanted to capture some of their natural energy in this incredible vineyard they had. Unfortunately, we had an extremely tight schedule. She had just flown in from Sweden, and when we got to the vineyard, the skies open, it completely started to downpour. So as you can tell from the umbrella, I mean, the wind was whipping. If you go to the next shot, I tried to continue to work through the scene, and actually liked it better with them walking. It seemed a little bit more natural than just a posed option. But that's certainly not ideal with an umbrella either. And you could just see the fog starting to roll in. So there's certain times that you just need to make a change. We actually went in and we were fortunate enough to have a chance to taste through part of their cellar. It's not something I typically do on a wine shoot, but I began to get the understanding of the importance of this terroir, the land, the steepness, the terracing. A lot of the wines that came from that were 100-year-old ports, and we were fortunate enough to enjoy one of those. So by that time, we all relaxed. We saw the light starting to change, and when we got back to the same scene, I knew the location I wanted them to be at, and a little bit of the motion, and we got to this next photo.
So different. And obviously the little storm was over, and the sun had peeked through the clouds, and very
I mean,
crisp.
it's all natural light. You can see it glowing, giving them a harem effect. I really like how it was backlighting the color of the vines in the foreground. You get the quinta in the background, and I just like the energy of it as well. It's a little bit more natural. It's quite a steep hill, and the sun was popping in and out. I mean, I might have 30 seconds between natural light option and just flat light. And then I got too sunny and windy, so you've got to move really quick. So it may seem that I just have gotten to that very quickly and with luck, and a certain amount is having to be at the right place at the right time. But having worked through it beforehand, I had an idea of what I wanted to do, so that when I had that tiny window, I could move on it quickly.
Right. That's good advice, right?
One thing I've never noticed before, I love the repetition of the trunks of the two vines.
Yeah.
That R-shaped repetition. I've never noticed that before.
On their legs and just
that's on the right. That's
of their legs. Little details like that to me are very important.
Yes.
I'm always looking for detail. It's often the details that make the photograph, however small they are.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're not even aware of them. There's almost subconscious, but they make the difference between a good photograph and an ordinary photograph.
That it does add interest. And then the lines of the fields behind, I guess those are other vines. That adds a whole layer of texture there. You have a lot of layers in this photograph too, which makes it really interesting.
And this was used as a spread in the Wine Spectator.
Yeah, it was an opening
Oh,
spread.
wow.
And there's very
Fantastic.
little space for that particular story. So the one photo had to tell multiple different aspects: the people, the terroir, a little bit of the season, and the weather. And having all those tiny elements in it gives it a better chance to get published than a series of individual photos that tell that story.
Right. Excellent. Should we go to the next one?
Sure.
So we are in a glacier area with a lot of fog, it looks like.
Yeah, so this I have on my computer, traveling mostly the recent locations we've gone to. So this was Patagonia. After Bob and I finished a photo shoot in
Oh, yeah.
Mendoza, we headed down to scout out a future photo workshop, and we've been a bit hesitant about that location because the weather can be so changeable. But I think the theme coming through all of our photos is dramatic weather. When you can wait it out, actually makes a far more interesting shot than just consistently sunny, beautiful weather.
Yes.
So I only had one day at this Petito Merino Glacier. It's kind of an iconic, famous location. Bob stayed behind on the bridge. You got some amazing different shots from different locations. I decided to do the glacier hike and started shooting on the boat riding out there as this incredibly depressing, huge storm and rain and wind came through. So I started to see different options to try to work with, and you can go through maybe the next
Yeah.
series.
Still in a lot of fog at this point.
Yeah, so I guess we're on the second one, or
Yeah, that's the second one.
so it was a guided tour, which I typically don't do. I prefer, obviously, with landscape to have more time, but
Yeah.
there was not an option for permission to otherwise do it at that period. Luckily, I had an amazing guide. He was a photographer himself, and when the light would pop out and he was telling her, it was a group of like 19 people on it. When he would see the sunlight pop out, he would kind of tell a story and pause, and I'd be able to snap off some shots. So this third one was the difference between the sun coming through the clouds briefly, and you can just see the color of the blue really start to pop in the glacier. So I knew that I wanted to be able to move very quickly when those opportunities presented themselves. And then the next three series.
I have a question though. Did you desaturate that at all, or is that really how it looked? The upper mountain.
I might have added a little bit of dehaze in Lightroom. Are we looking at the sunny one, the third one, or?
This is the one with the very blue glacier with the very the peak behind it. It looks like.
Yeah, no, actually, when the sun comes out, it's
that was just the way it is.
It's unbelievable, Marc.
That's amazing, the contrast there.
It almost looks desaturated.
Yeah.
Because it was even more intense in reality. It was stunning. Absolutely
Amazing.
It's very, very clean ice.
Some of the oldest ice and one of the largest glaciers as well.
It's one of the few glaciers that's advancing.
Yes. Someone said blue ice is mesmerizing. It is. It catches your eye because, wow, blue ice.
Oh, it's stunning.
And it was just an immense scene as well. And so I was really trying to struggle with how do I show the entire atmosphere and backdrop, because the mountain behind it kind of gave scale to just how large the glacier was. And if you go through the next three photos, you can see the clouds move. The glacier's lost its blue radiance, and the clouds are moving in over the top mountain peaks.
Wow, now I get the scale of it. I had a completely different idea what the scale was until I see these tiny little people. I thought it was like, 10 feet high, and it's obviously 200 or 1,000 feet high. I don't know, 500
I think
feet.
it's the biggest non-polar ice field in the world.
Amazing.
The Patagonian ice cap. It is massive.
It is
absolutely massive.
On the photo where you can see the peak behind, the light wasn't really working ideally to showcase both, but I had played with the image before by exposing for the blue ice and using a really long lens. I think I had a 70-300 lens on the Z6 camera, and I put it into DX crop mode, so I got to 420. And I decided to crop in and just show the tiny little people walking on the ice field, and the mountain behind goes black. And so for me, that was the final image that worked with the lighting conditions that I was given at that point.
Awesome. And then we have I think the final one in this series, maybe not, but where the sun has come back again, and now we're looking at the glacier and the peak behind it with the water in front of it. The glacier melt, I guess.
I think my order may be a little bit different than
Yeah.
yours. There'll be a delay. So, some of these photos, I don't know if you're seeing the shot with myself and just the detail of the blue as well.
You're not in it, but I see the blue glacier very prominently. The sun has come back, it looks like. And we've got the water in front, which I assume is just glacier runoff.
Right. So, I was having to move really quickly. The one photo, I guess, that didn't make it into the scene is I have this think tank mind shift pack. And I had to walk with crampons, keep up with the group, get through the scene. And the cool thing with the mind shift is that you can swivel around the bottom section, have it in front of you, and grab your camera out really quickly.
Nice.
So a lot of these photos I was having to take almost as when I was on the glacier. And I think maybe those series didn't make it in there. But I was having to actually walk with crampons on the ice and very quickly pull the camera out and shoot within a 2-minute frame. So
I can probably find that. Let me just, I'll just get the sidebar here going, and then we'll find that. So let's see. I'm going to flick through these really quickly and see. Oh, there you are with the crampons. Okay. Yes, I think we have the shot you're talking about. You've got an ice axe, helmet, crampons. And
I just, for a quick social media post, gave someone my iPhone, and the shot after that as well, the detail. I was pulling the iPhone or the camera out of the pack really quickly. Yeah. So I think it's important to know when that light does come out, why you want to be able to move through the scene, and have whatever camera ready to be able to capture it, because sometimes you literally may only have 15 seconds in a moving condition to capture something.
That is so true. I woke up the other morning, maybe it was like 6:30 in the morning. It had been raining, but the light was just beautiful on the trees. And I looked back and there's a rainbow. So I thought, well, I've got to get a real camera, not just use my iPhone. I ran downstairs, got my camera. By the time I came back, it was gone. It was over. It took 30 seconds to come back and it was gone. So now we have the series here of the Torres. I'm going to mess up the name badly. Torres del Paine. That's incredible. Tell us what's going on here. This is the first one, rather dark, except there's a lot of color in the sky.
Yeah, we're out here actually 3 different mornings trying to capture a feel and mood of that landscape. So we'd scouted it during the middle of the day, and knew when the light hit and different vantage points, and really wanted to get reflections with the lake and scene. But again, the weather is fairly changeable. The wind will blow in quickly, and often there'll be a cloud right in front of the sun as soon as it comes up. So it's a lesson of patience as well. You get up every morning before dawn, drive out to be on location, wait and hope. And some of the earlier shots worked. This first scene, I think, is the evening before, where part of what I wanted to capture at this location is Patagonia is very much known for their wind. So just like wine and the terroir, the importance of showing what makes a landscape unique. You could see these, I forget what the name of those clouds, venticular type clouds, where the wind just whips it into these amazing shapes.
Yes.
And we were actually, Bob, myself, and Malcolm all at dinner watching this scene start to transpose. And you could see potential, but the light really wasn't there. There's one of the shots somewhere in the series where it was just completely flat. Then it started to continue to develop, and I ran to a different window in the location. I had my iPhone, and literally in that 30 seconds between taking the iPhone shot and then pulling my larger camera out and trying to shoot it, I lost the light. So the last one in the series, where you can see a little bit more of the foreground and more orange-yellow clouds.
Is this the reflection that we have, that one, or
Yeah.
we look? Okay.
Our timing's off. You can see green grass in the lower foreground.
Oh, okay.
And it's the third in the series of that same scene.
Right.
I
Okay.
think the important thing about this is that what most people call bad weather is great weather for landscape.
Yeah.
You know, you need weather, what we call weather, which is, by that bad weather. Uh,
Yes.
I love Patagonia is incredible because it's changing all the time. And a similar place is Scotland. The light changes every few minutes
It
because
does.
it's windy, clouds going across the sky, rain 1 minute, um, you know, rainbows every few minutes. It's just amazing. And Patagonia is the same. There are days when it's sucked in completely and it doesn't really work. We almost always get something.
Yeah, I mean, you have to shoot through it in case you don't get that break. I mean, that last panoramic shot in my series, where it's really vivid, bright with the lake in the background, we didn't get the reflections that last morning.
I
But
see it. Yeah.
how the colors developed, I wish I'd had 3 cameras going. It would have been an incredible time lapse series. But it just kept on getting more and more and more intense until then it gradually faded. So, I mean, we'd been working into that scene for quite some time.
And, it,
It
and,
was,
it's often very fleeting. Last 10, 15 minutes and it's gone.
Yes.
well, we were lucky that it
You,
lasted 10, 10
you
15
know, you
minutes.
get
But
up, you get up before dawn, hang around in the freezing cold, the sun pops out, and it's all over.
so I think the
Yes.
panoramic shot, Marc, is the one that's really long. That is the final shot of that series.
I think this is it. So we have the peaks with the looks like the river in front of it. Is this the one you're thinking of?
I guess in 30 seconds I'll see. It's
Okay.
a
You'll see it in a
large
second.
panoramic with the lake in front of it. So we
Yeah.
didn't get reflections that day, but the light was the most intense. And it's not a Photoshop filter or
I don't
Instagram
think it's,
option.
I-
It's if you keep on going,
don't
it's
think it's-
further in the series. I know it's there.
Well, it was in, but
We're into the rainbows here now.
No, I don't think it's there.
I might have gone past it. Let's see. No?
It's probably at the very end of the gallery.
Okay. Let me just look. You guys. Ooh, there it is, I believe. This looks like sunset, or I'm
Dawn.
guessing. Is
It's the
sun-
sunrise
sun-
shot with the
Oh,
panoramic.
this is sunrise. Okay.
Sunset doesn't work on Piney very
Oh,
well
okay.
because you're looking north, so the sun rises on the right.
I see. And what time of day?
Yeah,
When was
okay,
this?
got it at the end. Right.
Is this it?
Yes.
It.
Amazing photograph. And what time of day was this? At
About
For
10
Patagonia.
minutes after dawn.
okay.
So before the peaks light up, the clouds above start to show their colors.
Right.
And then it just gradually got more intense. Luckily, the sun wasn't blocked with the cloud. Sometimes the wind is moving so quickly, like this shot, maybe 45 seconds later, the clouds were in slightly different positions because it was moving that fast.
Right.
And I believe I did a panoramic stitch. So I had it on a tripod, and I did, I think with a vertical, if I can recall correctly, I did 5 shots really quickly to be able to get the clouds and the lake, and then I blended them together after that fact. And I had one chance of that panoramic to come together before the light started to get a little bit less intense and the clouds moved.
Amazing.
In a way, it's landscape photographers have it much more easy than they used to because with Instagram, you can look at photographs on Instagram, see what time they were taken, and know when to be in a place.
Oh, that's
In the
true,
old
isn't it?
days- In the old days when I started, 50 years ago, you had to go out and actually experience it yourself before you knew what was going to happen. I always used to carry a compass with me. I remember the first time I went to Bryce Canyon, I wanted to get a dawn shot at Bryce with the sun. I was there for one night. I was on a very fast trip. I spent one night there, got there in the evening, so I didn't really know what was going to happen. The cliffs at Bryce, which are spectacular, these eroded eroded cliffs face east. I got my compass out, worked out where I thought the sun would rise, and went back early the next morning before sunrise, hoping for the best. Unfortunately, it worked. The sun hit a natural amphitheater,
Yeah.
but there was no way you could find out easily other than using a compass and common sense. Nowadays,
Now we have
it's ruined a lot of places.
it has, I know, for
So
sure.
many places.
Because people are just standing there waiting for that sun to come up.
Absolutely overrun by people who are not really, they're not serious photographers. I guess we can't begrudge them the opportunity to experience these places, but it is irritating.
You might like to, though.
Yeah, we'd like to, yeah.
Well, this just all brings up the fact that to be dedicated to photography, you do, like you said, you have to make some sacrifices. You get up early, you stay out when other people are partying or eating or whatever. But that's what you have to do if you're going to be an active photographer and not just come home with a mediocre shot. So there we go. And I think we should open it up. If you guys have any questions, now is your chance. So, Bob, were there any others we could go back to yours for a minute? Andrea,
Yeah,
this
sure.
is incredible. Are there any others that you want? We ended off with the guy in Peru. Were there any others that you wanted to?
Yeah, just carry on, Mark.
We're at the Taj Mahal now, the next series.
I'd like to shout out to Sabir Mahmood, who's joined us, I see. Hi,
Oh,
Sabir.
Hey.
Good to see you. I wish we could see you in person, but that will change soon, I hope. And also Jose is with us,
Yeah, Jose is with us.
which is always very nice to see.
And all you other guys, make sure if you got a question, now is your chance. We're going to go through a few more with Bob, but
Yeah, we'll go through these quickly, Mark.
yeah.
I worked on a project years ago on the architecture of the Shah Jahan, and I was doing this for an exhibit at the Los Angeles County Museum, and also a book by Thames and Hudson called Romance of the Taj. And I spent some time going back and seeing it under different lighting conditions
Yeah.
and how it changed throughout the day. So if we just go through them quickly.
And these are shot with film, right? I think I'm
These are all film.
looking at the grain. Okay,
Yeah.
now we're seeing kind of the golden hour or maybe sunrise,
I shoot a lot at dawn.
a dawn shot.
I hate dawn because I have to get up early,
Really?
but I love it for taking photographs. I'd rather stay in bed most days, but the light at dawn has a quality that you don't. It's cleaner. It's a clearer, cleaner light at dawn, and this is one of the things you have to experience to know when to take photographs.
And you're getting a lot of atmosphere and
And at
mist.
dawn, water is usually very still just
Yeah.
before dawn.
Right.
You can get beautiful reflections. This is the River Jumna, and I wouldn't have got a clean photograph of this fisherman in his boat with his perfect reflection
Yes.
without if there'd been any strong ripples in the water. As soon as the sun comes up, it causes convection winds that ripple the surface of water. You also get mist at dawn, which you often don't get at sunset.
Right. That's true.
So there are a number of things that you can take advantage of by shooting at dawn. And you have to be aware of these things and know your subject and what you're going to be photographing to take advantage of it. But I worked this Taj Mahal thing. I had to come up with a lot of photographs, and it meant going back at all different times of day.
Yes.
And the shot, I pre-visualized one shot, which I think may be the last of the series, of a big sun behind the minaret.
Oh, yes. Here we have it. Oh, that's
There's a massive
amazing.
sun that I shot, I think, with maybe a 400mm lens. And it took me 3 days to get that shot. I wanted it to be perfectly aligned behind the minarets.
And it
I
is.
kept going back morning after morning. I'm not sure. It's a complete silhouette. There's another shot of the sun coming up. There's a blue hour, sort of a blue
Yeah.
hour. That's the one, right exactly behind the two minarets. And that took me 3 days to get it positioned exactly right. And the beauty of shooting in India at the Taj was pollution,
Ah,
because you've
I
got
know.
these incredible dawns. The color, this orange color is absolutely genuine, and it's because of pollution in the atmosphere.
It's
It's smoke
terrible.
pollution. It's dreadful pollution. You can't breathe, but you can make great photographs. Recently, the last time we were at the Taj, which was a couple of years ago, you could barely see the Taj from across the river. The pollution was so bad.
That's
It's some of the
horrible.
worst pollution India has ever had. And with COVID, that pollution has disappeared.
I
So
know.
now you can get beautiful, clean, clear shots of the Taj without any of this nasty aerial pollution, which can help with color, but is very unpleasant on every other level.
It's bad for your lungs, but good for your eyes.
Yeah. And
Well,
the next couple of photographs, Mark, if you have time for them,
yeah.
are portrait shots, because light is particularly important with portraits.
Yes.
And this is a photograph of a tobacco farmer in Cuba. At least I
Yes.
believe it is. Again,
It
we have
is.
this 30-second drive.
Yeah, it is
And
the
it
guy
was
in
harsh light. He was a great character. He reminded me very much of was it Tom Joad from The Grapes of Wrath, from
Oh yeah.
Steinbeck's Grapes
That's
of Wrath.
Tom
He
Joad,
was
yeah.
sort of he was just like that character. He was sort of tall, gangly, uh, really nice guy, very humble, just a hard-working tobacco farmer in this little place called Vinales at the far western end of Cuba. And I wanted a nice portrait of him. And it was harsh light, it was midday. Uh, so I shot him with backlight. I exposed his face, but it was backlit.
Yes.
And fortunately, the sensor held, this is digital, this was taken fairly recently. The sensor held most of the highlight detail.
Yeah.
But by using Lightroom, I could bring up the shadows afterwards. And shooting at a fairly low ISO, which meant if you shoot at a high ISO and bring out shadow areas, you can get a lot of noise in
That's
the
right.
shadows. If you shoot at a low ISO, you can avoid that to some extent, and look at the histogram and keep the peak of the histogram as far to the right as you can. By doing that, you make sure you have good shadow detail, but you still have some highlight detail.
And
And
I
then you
don't
can,
yeah, I don't see any it's not even blown out. Tiny bit on the cheek, but
it is
really
on his cheek and on his shirt a little bit.
yeah.
But it worked because I use backlight. And I often do that with portraits if I really would like to get the shot. And this works. But my favorite shot of him was the next one.
Yeah.
I took him to one of his tobacco sheds and
There he is.
photographed him with this. I love this dark, moody light.
Yeah, you
It's my
moved him
favorite
in.
kind of light. It's it's really Vermeer lighting. People think it is Rembrandtish
That's right.
lighting. A lot of the old masters use this very dark, saturated light, and that was my favourite shot of this guy in the tobacco shed. So you do the same portrait in several different ways,
That's
and these
right.
would take probably an hour apart.
We have a question here, Bob. While shooting in the blue hour, whether you change the white balance or not, do you do any white balance shift?
No, well, I always shoot raw. I
Yeah,
can never understand why people shoot JPEGs these
I
days.
know.
Almost every camera has a raw. Even iPhones have a raw setting. If you use
Lightroom.
if you use Lightroom, there's a Lightroom app for the iPhone, and
It
it
is.
allows you to shoot
I
in
shoot in
RAW.
raw. Yeah.
There is no reason not to shoot RAW. So if you're shooting at blue hour, I usually keep my camera setting on cloudy because in 80% of situations it gives me sort of light balance that I like.
That's
But
right.
if something is a little bit off, I'll go into Lightroom and change the light balance. So it's Pradeep that asked this question. Yeah, I don't worry too much, Pradeep, but very occasionally I'll use auto light balance. If there's strange lighting, fluorescence, sodium vapor, whatever, if there's weird lighting going on. Although I like mixed light sources. I find that very interesting in photographs. I don't try and balance all the light sources out. I don't want excessive green, which I find ugly, which you get from fluorescence. I'll pull in magenta to get rid of that, again in Lightroom. And it's really the only Lightroom manipulation I'll do. I'll use highlight and shadow detail and color balance, and that's really just about it. And sometimes noise reduction. If I'm really pushed and have to shoot at very high ISOs in very, very, very low light conditions, I use noise reduction to smooth out the noise in the photograph.
Sometimes we've had our cameras come back, like you get the sensor cleaned or send it in a Nikon for some repair, and I don't know why, they always change it back to JPEG. And if you're not careful and look through all the settings, you get out there, and I typically keep it in auto white balance so that I can see on the screen the different variations that I'm going to be able to capture. And then just in case, how many times do we run from a wine cellar inside to going outside quickly, and you forget to change it because we just assume it's on RAW, and it's easy for that thing to switch. That's a really good point.
Yes.
Nikon, whenever you send your camera to Nikon, they always reset it to factory settings, which is always JPEG. Oh, weird
what
settings
are they
that
thinking?
I never use. And you always have to remember to check your settings, even if it's not gone back to Nikon. Check them.
It's easy to bump.
One situation, from what Andrea was saying, I had to do a shoot in a cellar in a cave in Napa, a dark cave, and I pushed the ISO up to something like 4,000, 5,000, and I got usable images. But then I had to take the whole of the winery staff, including the winemaker, everyone at the winery, outside in front of the cave in the sun, and I forgot to change the ISO. I totally forgot to change it.
And you're wondering why you're having to send it at 1/5000th of a second or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always got to be aware of that. When you've got a big group of people, I get very flustered sometimes because you've got all these people, you're intent on looking at faces, making sure all their eyes are open, they've all got pleasant expressions, you can see everyone. And the last thing I think about is looking at the settings on my camera, which is a huge mistake.
It is.
Looking at your settings is absolutely fundamental. Always be conscious of your settings. And as you say, Mark, I should have been aware that it was f/22 to 5,000.
It's just that should be your first clue, but you get caught up in the moment. It's like doing.
Thing was that the photographs were okay.
It's amazing. Well, you have the latitude again to do some work on it in Lightroom, but that's
I couldn't blow them up to 3-foot wide prints, but for internet use, for sending on the web, they were fine.
Well, thank God it was RAW instead of JPEG.
Yeah, and they were raw. Yeah.
Amazing.
JPEG, I'd have been screwed. But.
All right, we have a question from Christian. When you're used to shooting film, and you shot on manual mode, hang on, that just moved around here. Let me just understand your question. So when you were used to shooting film, obviously it was shot with manual.
And what you say, I see you say, Christian, that.
Yeah.
You followed up with another one.
Here we go.
You've got 3 questions. What it was we saw in manual mode. It was natural and honest.
So I think are you shooting in manual or not? I guess is the question.
I guess the answer, Christian, is that nothing in photography really is natural and honest. Look at Ansel Adams' photographs. Yeah. They're not reality. Ansel did enormous manipulation.
He made a whole point about that.
The classic one everybody knows about is Moonrise Hernandez, which was totally manipulated. It didn't look like that.
Yeah.
Going back to the beginnings of photography, when people took portraits that were 5-minute exposures, people had their head in a clamp. None of it was natural. We can approximate what we think we see, but we all see differently. And I don't think digital is any different to film. Some people use extreme. I personally have an aversion to HDR photography.
Oh, extreme.
I really
Me,
dislike
me
HDR
too.
when it's done to extreme. There's one very well-known photographer who specializes in it, and
Yeah.
I really dislike that look. It's to me that is very unnatural. If it's done subtly, I do it subtly, like the portrait of this tobacco farmer. That's subtle HDR.
Yeah.
I brought down the highlights and I brought up the shadows, which is HDR, but it's when it's done to an extreme level. But nothing, you can never guarantee anything is honest because we all put our own subjective interpretation onto it.
Well, then it's an art form, because if it was just purely reproduction, as photography started out as a reproductive tool, you're not really producing art. You're just producing an image that doesn't have your own personal stamp on it. And that's the difference.
Yeah. Well, what
So,
Christian says, I agree with what Christian says about trying to shoot what is actually there. And your English, Christian, is not so bad. It's better than my Italian. I guess you're Italian. Uh, which is non-existent.
we,
But I agree. I try to take honest photographs, places as I really think I saw them. But it's how I saw them. It's not how other people see it. I have a friend who's a photographer who's colorblind.
yeah.
Some of my photos mean nothing to him because he has red-green blindness. And he takes very ordinary color photographs.
I think to your point, we're not altering a scene. If you look at a Cartier-Bresson decisive moment opportunity, we're not taking that perfect jump and adding the reflection of the pond in, or
in Photoshop.
Like
it's
it may happen for advertising.
I think it's a good point. The content is honest. The interpretation of that content will be subjective. I think that's the point, Christian. What we have in the photograph is honest. It's what's before us. We don't add things, we don't take things out, but we may adjust other elements, like color balance, because we want to show the color as we experienced it. And sometimes people think, the photographs of Andrea's, the landscapes in Patagonia, with that intense sunrise, they almost didn't do the physical experience of being there justice. It was overwhelming. The color was so intense. It was absolutely overwhelming. And those landscapes look a little bit desaturated, but nobody'd believe them if we showed them as they really were.
And I think the sad thing is when people do see those types of scenes, they don't trust photography anymore unless you know the artist and their ethics, because so often it is just an Instagram filter that's slapped over something, or if you don't want to get up at dawn or miss dinner, you just intensify it as if you wanted it to be. And
that's another good problem with Instagram. Instagram's done a lot of damage to photography on so many levels. Although we both embrace Instagram as a platform to show our photographs and also to teach to some extent, but it's the use of filters. Really, and I'm just fed up of seeing the back of attractive women in various places of the world.
Well, listen, you guys, believe it or not, we've been almost an hour. It's kind of amazing. I don't want to keep you all day. I know you got a lot to do.
Of course you do.
Oh, but we can. I just soon keep talking to you guys all day, and I'm sure everybody'd love to hear. But listen, thank you guys so much. Is there any final advice you want to leave these guys with to advance their photography?
No, I think we've covered everything pretty well. Learn to look at this. What I keep saying is, I'm very repetitive. Learn to look at light. Keep practicing.
I'll add something. I think during these pandemic times, we're all stuck in one location a lot longer than we typically would be. And some of our strongest photos are when we are in the same place over a period of days. And you can study the light, know when the opportunities are, and then just keep on going out there and trying again and again. And you might get a whole series of shots of different moods. I mean, I think a landscape can have the personality as a portrait can. And the more dramatic the conditions and the light and even trauma in our life, sometimes that can intensify how you see and what you capture out there. So there are some upsides to slowing down and just paying attention to wherever you are and really studying the light in that place.
So true. Thank you guys again. Did you
I
have
think just to add to that,
Yeah.
what Andrea said is true. The more frequently you go back to a place, the better photographs you get.
Yeah.
Every time I return to a place, I get different shots that are often better than the first time I went. So if you can keep repeating going back to places, you'll be well off. And I apologize to Christian for thinking he's Italian. He's Chilean. And my Spanish is no better than my Italian. So
Probably
So
you still beat me, Christian.
You're still ahead of us, Christian. Thank you. Well, you guys, thanks again, and we will see you again real soon. I know we're going to have you back before we know it. So take care, you guys.
Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thanks so much.
All right.
Bye.
Wow, what a great session, you guys. I mean, I think this whole idea of looking at what worked and what didn't work and getting the story behind it is so important. And just this point, you can't be a lazy photographer and expect to come back with a whole bunch of great images. You know, you got to get up early. You got to, as Bob said, you're going to miss dinners, but it's you with your camera being an active photographer that makes all the difference in the world. Okay, a couple of items of news that I think you guys want to know about. First of all, did you know that as of this week, these are all going up as audio podcasts? Yes, that's right. Jared, why don't you put that first one in the link here? We're on iTunes. Soon we'll be on Spotify. You guys can listen to these again if you want, and you can tell your friends to listen to them. I'd prefer they watch them, but you know, my viewpoint is, hey, maybe you're driving and you can't watch a video, so you should listen to it, or you listen to it again. So Jared will stick up the link there. Check those audio podcasts out. Leave your review and your notes and your kind words. Peter Hurley is going to join us on Wednesday, and I'm going to put up a survey to find out exactly what you guys want to know from him, portrait photography. So watch out for that, because we're going to put that survey up. I want to hear from you. This is really important. We want to dial in on exactly what you guys want to know about. So make sure you're following us. You guys can see where we are on Instagram for both Bob and Andrea and me, and stay on top of, we use Instagram as a tool, and you got to know how to use it and what it's for. It is a quick way of getting your work out there. But don't forget, prints are where it's at as a photographer. So put your order into Bay Photo, because they'll make whatever you want. So beyond that, if you haven't already joined the AYP Club, please do so. There's a lot of activity going on in there, and it's a great group. So Jared will stick that on the screen as well. Make sure you guys do subscribe, enable the bell so you don't miss any of our shows, and leave your comments and likes. And remember to get out and capture your own images of life. I love you guys. Take care, stay safe, and we'll see you really soon.